The date right now is September 5th, 2008. Time right now is 19:34 hours. We're here at the command post at the end of TPC. Orange County case number is 08-069208. Detective Mellish. Also here present is Sergeant John Allen. Also present is Mr. Richard Grund. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Richard, do you understand this is being recorded?
Yes, sir.
Any objection to that?
No, you have my permission.
Thank you, sir. And your date of birth for the record, please? And your current address right now, sir? We spoke earlier tonight. I was trying to get a hold of your son, Jesse, to have him come down. Make a long story short, you spoke to us on the phone. You started mentioning certain things about conversations you had with George or the Anthonys in general. Piqued our interest, and we wanted to take the opportunity to talk to you. I appreciate you driving all the way down and talking to us. I'll let you start where you want to start, okay. And then we'll just
so that you know, I was going to talk to you, but I wanted Caylee to be found first. Now that we're in a place where we're going to find her, but not the way I wanted, I felt you needed to know what I know. When this all first happened, Jesse immediately went and volunteered to the family and started passing out flyers. And I said, you tell George I want to talk to him. I said, but you asked him a question for me. And the question was, why aren't you doing what ex-cops do? Because I know what I would be doing. And his answer to Jesse was, tell your dad I want to talk to him. So that's Sunday. I think it was the second Sunday vigil. I don't remember what the date was. I left George a voicemail. I decided I was going to start calling in favors of friends in military, law enforcement, intelligence, things like that, and say, okay, let's see what we can do here. But I left the message for George, and this was the message. George, I'm getting ready to shake the trees to see if I can find Caylee. Please tell me if anything I'm going to do is going to endanger her. George immediately called me.
Can you lock that, please?
George, thank you. George immediately called me and said he wanted to talk to me. He wasn't avoiding me, but here's my answer to your question as to why I'm not doing what you think I should be doing. And he said, because my wife doesn't want me to.
Knowing George, how long have you known George or the Anthonys?
I met George when Jesse and Casey got engaged. We went over the house, and I spent some time with George. I've only actually spent any length of time with George twice. Same thing with Cindy. Most of my information is from Casey, and as we know, that's probably not real reliable.
So when George said something about her wife or Cindy not letting him, how did you take that?
I knew it was probably true. From being around them, from knowing what went on beforehand, my perception of that household is, and again, this is as a regular person, but also as a minister. I've been a minister for 20 years. It's a household that Cindy rules. The only thing that gets done is what Cindy wants done, and that's the way it is. And George has made some mistakes in the past, the gambling, which we all know about, which he talked to me about, and he's basically, in my opinion, been emasculated since that point. So whatever Cindy wants is what Cindy gets. To me, that still wouldn't be enough. I'm old world Italian, and that wouldn't stop me to find what I want to find.
So after he made this comment to you,
So what I said was, he said, but I do want to talk to you. He said, can you meet us halfway? He was at the public shopping center in his side of town. I was at home. We decided, I said, I'll meet you in the parking lot of the Florida Mall at 3 o'clock outside the main entrance. Calls me back and says, I'm late for the prayer vigil. Can you meet me at the house? You can stay afterwards and we can talk in private. So I got there late so I would be behind the cameras because I was trying to stay low profile because of Jesse. George acknowledged my presence when it was over and then left. Now, I grabbed Lee because Lee wanted to talk to me as well. And he said, I know my dad wants to talk to you. And so Lee and I talked a little bit but didn't go into any detail. George never came back. My wife and I stood outside in the rain for almost an hour, and Lee finally said, hey, why don't you guys come in and sit down? I don't know where my dad is.
Where was the vigil at?
It was at the house, right in front of his house.
Okay.
And so we went inside and we sat down. By that point, it's after 10 o'clock. Most everybody's gone. So we were in the house, my wife Deborah and I, Cindy, Lee, and his girlfriend, and I think her name is Mallory. Mm-hmm. Okay. That's all who was in the house. George, I don't know where George is at this point. So we sat there, Lee and I talked. We went over what notes I had and what I was thinking, and Lee was pretty much, the same things, Anita, Jeffrey Hopkins, the whole story. saying he had all the emails, which I know what he forwarded to you, because he printed them off that night while I was there. We sat there. Finally, Lee said, "Look, I don't know what's going on, but I'm really tired. It's 10:45. I got to go." George comes out of a back room at about 11:05 in his shorts, kind of shocked to see me. And I'm thinking, I just drove a long way. "Oh, I'm really sorry I got delayed." And I'm sitting there thinking, I'm trying not to get angry because of the situation, but I'm kind of insulted, to be honest with you. Okay, I cut him some slack. So, he starts hemming and hawing, and I'm thinking, what's going on here? Cindy didn't really talk to me. Cindy and I'm not a fan of Cindy's, and Cindy knows it. So she pretty much kept away from me. The only thing I did hear her say that night that I thought was interesting, she said it to my wife, but I was standing right there. The only thing she said that night that I thought was even human and truth was, I could lose both my girls on this one. First sign that she had a clue that something was wrong.
Now, how did you discuss that with Lee, with her in the room, or how did she make that statement? Or why? Under what context?
She, my wife and her hit it off when the baby was born. It came out of nowhere. It was just one of those emotional, it seeped out kind of things. But it stuck with me and with my wife. But then, as we were going through the car, because now it's 11:15, and I got to go home. George walks me out to the car, and I started asking him questions. I said, "Oh, I know, I wanted to talk to you, but, if something came up, and I forgot that you were there." And of course, I didn't believe any of that. I mean, you asked me to come talk to you. So he said, "What do you think's going on?" I said, "George, here's where I'm working from right now." I said, "I have two theories. Something happened, and Caylee has snapped. This isn't Caylee anymore. Or Caylee got involved in something that went wrong, and either she's hidden Caylee or somebody's taken Caylee." And that's the one he was leaning towards. And I said, "George, what has your daughter got involved in?" He goes, "Well, I don't know. Caylee's always had issues." That's always his statement. Caylee has issues. And then we talked about the smell in the trunk. And I said, "If it's not Caylee, George, who is it?" Because, I don't know. And then I said point blank, I said, "George, what has your daughter gotten herself into?" I said, "Because I'm just starting, and I'm starting to find things I don't like about Fusion and some of these people she's hanging out with." I said, "Something's really wrong." I said, "Caylee's life is, in my opinion, not good, but it's a controlled mess up until the end of May, early June. Something happens to spin that out of control." So, I don't know. It's this new crowd. And then he just kind of blurted out about the whole job thing. He said, I knew that she didn't have any of these jobs. He said when she told us she worked at the Sports Authority, I went there one day. They told me she'd never been there. And I discovered most of the jobs that she's told us she never had. Which, of course, I made a note of. That means you knew that she wasn't working. So if she has a nanny, who's paying for her? The thing that struck me when I was reading those notes about her story about Zenaida, it hasn't changed word for word since April of 2006. It's still exactly the same story. When she told it to us, I think I told you on the phone, from the end of her babysitter at that point was Lauren Gibbs. Mm-hmm. Lauren suddenly couldn't do it anymore. I think she was going back to school. Now she has no babysitter for Caylee, and she's supposedly working at Kodak at Universal.
And this is when again?
This is March, April, and part of May 2006. Okay. So Jesse decides to give up his only day off from Progressive. He's watching her on Mondays, and then it got to the point where somebody else in my family was watching her 2 days a week. So now Caylee's at our house 3 days out of the week during work. I think Casey's there at night and on the weekends. I don't have a problem with that because Caylee's a wonderful little girl, but I work out of my house, and this was a severe disruption to me. So I began to press Caylee about, have you found anybody yet? And then when she finally said she found someone, as I told you on the phone, it was really odd. Rather than just saying, yeah, I've got that worked out. Oh, yeah, I found this lady, Zenaida Gonzalez, and she watches my friend Jeffrey Hopkins' son, Zachary, and Zachary and Caylee play together, and they love to be together, so this will work out great. I'm thinking, wow, that's a whole lot more information than I really needed.